I'm Liam, 31, software guy by day, designated potato salad taster by family decree. If you've ever seen a family operate like a well-rehearsed chaos troupe, that's us. Grandma Ruth is our son. She's turning 80 and still drives like she's late to a concert. My mom, Linda, collects serving platters like fossils. My dad, Frank, lectures about charcoal like it's a constitutional right. My sister, Nora, is the family's sarcasm department. We argue about nothing and show up for everything. That's the rule. The plan was Ruthfest, our very subtle name for Grandma's birthday weekend at the lake cabins an hour out of town. Think potluck marathon, lawn chairs, cousins' kids sticky with popsicles, and my dad policing the grill like it owes him money. We had the good cabin with the wide porch and the crooked porch swing that makes every conversation feel like a confession. Ava, my girlfriend of almost 3 years, was going to help me set up string lights and pretend she liked Aunt Carol's famous olive loaf. Easy. Ava fit my life like a borrowed hoodie. Soft, familiar, maybe a size off, but in a way I didn't mind. She knew how my mom folds napkins into little boats, how Nora hides behind jokes when something actually matters, how my dad gets quiet before he says something important. She and Grandma had a standing Scrabble rivalry that Grandma pretended to lose. We weren't perfect, but we were routine. And routine can look a lot like safety when you stare at it long enough. The week before Ruthfest, I was doing the kind of work that melts your brain into a polite soup. Deploys, rollbacks, meetings that could be emails. My phone buzzed. I half glanced, expecting a meme from Nora or a grocery list update. It was Ava. Hey Liam, so Cole's going through a rough patch. Cole, her ex. The "we ended on good terms" guy who pops up like an app you forgot you installed. I scrolled. He literally has nowhere to go next weekend. Family stuff. Complicated. I told him he could come to your grandma's birthday. It's the humane thing to do. We're adults. We can handle this. I already told him yes. Deal with it. There was a heart emoji like a band-aid on a bullet hole. She ended with, I'll keep him out of the way. He respects boundaries. I stared at the screen until the letters stopped meaning anything. Cole had been texting more lately. Just checking in chais that feel innocent until you realize they read breadcrumbs to somewhere you didn't plan on going. I'd played it cool because I am, unfortunately, the kind of person who thinks he can negotiate with discomfort. But there it was, a decision made about my family, like my family is a venue you can book. I typed, I'll let them know. My hands moved before my head did. She sent back, knew you'd understand. You're the best. I looked at the wall clock in the office lounge and felt something shift, like the minute hand skipped a tooth. I walked outside and sat on the concrete step by the side door, the one with the cigarette burns from people who quit and then didn't. I pictured Cole at the lake, shaking my dad's hand, calling my grandma ma'am, standing on the porch I built with my uncle and telling everyone he saw between things. Every version of that ending tasted like aluminum. At dinner, Ava acted like the message never had weight. She showed me paper lanterns she wanted to bring for the dock. She asked if Grandma is a cinnamon person. She laughed at something on her phone, face tilted in the same direction my life was tilting. When she went to shower, I opened my laptop and stared at rental sites along the lake. It wasn't revenge. It was oxygen. I sent 2 messages before bed. One to my mom. Small chance work eats my Saturday. I'm trying to juggle. I'll keep you posted. The other to Nora. How mad would you be if I didn't show up Saturday? She replied with a skull emoji and then, define mad. Also, why? I typed, Ava invited Cole. She wrote back, absolutely not. Also, I'm making a new Wi-Fi network called Cole Isn't Invited. I laughed, then didn't. I slept like I was waiting for a doorbell that never rang. If suspicion had a sound, I always thought it would be sirens. Turns out, it's a slow drip under the sink. 3 weeks before the text, Ava's phone started living face down. Notifications got silenced like they'd embarrassed her. She'd say, group chat drama, without specifics, and change plans with a, you were flexible, right? Smile. I told myself this is adulthood. Compromise, shorelines moving. But a shoreline that moves too much becomes the ocean. We picked up supplies Thursday. Charcoal, s'mores stuff. A ridiculous number of paper plates because my parents treat dishwashing like a Greek tragedy. Ava tossed gluten-free crackers in the cart and said, Cole can't do wheat anymore. It slid out of her mouth like I'd asked. I didn't react. I just looked at the box and felt my jaw click. Ruthfest is full family, I said casually. It's personal. Ava nodded like she agreed in theory. Exactly why it'll be good for him. Community heals. She kissed my shoulder and placed the crackers next to the marshmallows like a seating chart I hadn't approved. That night, I ran my usual loop around the neighborhood. The air smelled like cut grass and somebody else's grilling steak. I tried on different futures in my head. One where I swallow it and smile through a speech about compassion while Cole laughs with my uncle. One where I throw a fit and become the jealous guy in a story Ava tells her friends. One where I don't go, and the story writes me as petty, but true to myself. The third one was the only one where my stomach didn't twist. I called Nora from the curb outside our building. Hypothetical, I said, because I am the king of hypotheticals when I'm actually asking for permission. If someone brought their ex to Grandma's 80th without asking the family. No, she said crisp. The answer is no. Also, I'm telling Mom. Also, do not make me build a human barricade at the cabin. Maybe don't tell Mom yet, I said. I need to figure this out. She groaned. Figure it out faster than Ava figured out how to text deal with it. Friday, Ava sent me a picture of the cake she'd ordered. A lemon thing with edible flowers. It looked like it should have an Instagram account. She added, Cole offered to help carry things. He's being so supportive about this. I stared at the word supportive until it turned into nonsense. Supportive of what? Of the plan where he walks into my life through the side door? Work handed me a small miracle. Our Friday deploy was postponed, which meant I could, technically, be at the cabin all weekend. Instead, I booked a last-minute room at a small lakeside motel 1 cove over from our family cabins. It had a neon sign that flickered and a row of white plastic chairs that looked permanently surprised. Perfect. I needed distance you could measure with water. At dinner, I told Ava I might have to pop out for a maintenance window Saturday afternoon. Not a lie, just not the right coordinates. She kissed my cheek and said, You're such a team player. I tried to imagine a world where we were still a team. I packed late, quiet. The bag looked small. The decision didn't. Ava was already asleep when I slid the zipper closed. She looked peaceful. That is the thing about people you love. They can be both the softest place and the sharpest edge depending on how you land. Before I fell asleep, I drafted a text to my mom that started with, I am sorry, and ended with, I'll make it up to you. I didn't send it yet. I stared into the dark and listened to the apartment creak like it was practicing saying something neither of us wanted to hear. Saturday morning I left before the city was fully awake. I put a note on the counter. Coolers packed. Lanterns in the closet. See you tonight. And it felt like a line from a play I didn't audition for. I drove with the windows cracked and the radio low. The lake does this thing where it shows up in your chest before you see it. I checked into the motel, where the front desk guy wore a name tag that said Marty, and had the energy of someone who knows where every key is. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and old summers. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling fan pretending to be a helicopter. Then my phone started buzzing like it owed someone money. First, Ava. Cole's asking about dress code. Are your people jeans or chinos? Then, your mom just texted me. She says you might be late. Is everything okay? Then, we're picking up the cake, headed to the lake by 3. I turned off read receipts and set the phone face down. It still felt like it was watching me. Around 5, my screen filled with messages like a slot machine. From Ava. Where are you? Your mom says you're not coming at all? You didn't tell me. I'm here. With Cole. This is awkward. From Nora. Mom asked who the man carrying the lemon masterpiece is. I said security. She didn't laugh. From Dad. Who is this Cole and why does he have opinions about charcoal? Nora sent a photo. It knocked the wind out of me even though I had air. The whole porch was there. Grandma in her 80 and still salty shirt, Mom with her hostess smile that lifts and trembles, Dad mid-eye roll, cousins already camped out with plates. Ava stood near the cooler, back straight like a ruler. Next to her, Cole, all apologetic charm and the kind of haircut that tries too hard. My chair, Grandpa's old wooden one, sat empty. A perfect outline of a person who made a choice. Then, the play-by-play. Nora. He just called Grandma Queen. She smiled like she wasn't sure if she was being complimented or recruited into something. Another text. He's talking about his brand. Dad asked what the product is. Cole said, connection. Dad said, so air. I laughed. Short. Sad. My family does comedy when the stakes rise. It's how we breathe, Ava called. I didn't answer. She called again. I picked up because the silence between us had stretched tight. You're not here, she said, brittle. Your mom told me you're not coming. You said you'd be late. I said I'd be late to a world where my boundaries mattered, I said, voice steady in a way I didn't expect. Turns out, I meant I wouldn't be there at all. This is cruel, she said. I have to explain to your family why you be not here while my ex stands next to me holding a cake. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? You did that, I said, softer than the sentence deserved. You did that when you decided I was a logistics problem to solve. Nora again. Aunt Carol asked if Cole is your new PR rep. He said, we're just good humans. Grandma asked if he brought a jacket. It gets cold by the water. He said he runs warm. Grandma said, not tonight, you don't. At 6:30, Ava texted, your mom pulled me aside. She asked if this was a test. I said no. Is it? I stared at the question like it was a mirror. I typed, erased, typed again. It's a boundary. I put the phone screen down and went outside. The lake was quiet, small waves whispering at the shore, boat ropes clinking. Families laughed around fire pits like distant radios. I wanted to be angry enough to make it simple. Instead, I felt a weird soft sadness for the version of us that might have navigated this. But that version needed both of us to believe the same thing about respect. We didn't. A little before 8, Nora sent a final update. Grandma asked for a toast. She thanked everyone for coming and said, family means you don't get to audition ex-boyfriends at my party. Mom choked on her iced tea. Cole clapped. I think he thought it was a joke. Also, he took leftovers. Plural, like Tupperware container plural. I laughed then, out loud, alone. It wasn't happy. It was honest. I slept with the window cracked and the curtains open. The thin motel sheet a little colder than I thought it would be. Sunday morning, I drove to the cabins early. The road still empty, mist pulling itself off the lake like a blanket. I parked by the big oak and walked up the path that worn into the dirt by decades of our feet. The porch smelled like citronella and birthday cake. Mom hugged me like she was trying to count my ribs. We missed you, she whispered. No judgment, just fact. Dad gave me a nod that said both, I get it, and it dawned to make me say it out loud. Nora flicked the wind chime and said, you owe me a play-by-play later. We were cleaning up, folding chairs, stacking plates, the usual post-party choreography, when a car door thunked, and Ava came up the path holding a bakery box like a white flag. Her eyes were the kind you get when you slept, but your heart didn't. She stopped at the bottom step and looked at me like we'd both arrived at a cliff. Can we talk? She asked. We stepped onto the side porch where Grandma keeps the potted herbs and the threateningly sharp shears. I'm sorry, she said immediately, hands up. I should have asked. I should have asked you. I should have asked your mom. I should have asked anyone. I thought, she exhaled. I thought I was doing a good thing. You were doing a thing, I said. You attached good to it and hoped the label would make it true. She winced. Fair. She fiddled with the bakery string. There's more. I didn't say the whole part. The air tightened. Cole didn't just have nowhere to go. He wanted to talk to your uncle about investing. He asked me to make an introduction at the party. He said I should frame it as compassion so it wouldn't feel transactional. I told myself it made sense because your family loves helping people, and I didn't want to be the bitter ex-girlfriend Essie new girlfriend who says no. My stomach did that hollow elevator drop. So, Grandma's birthday was also a pitch meeting. Ava's face folded. I hear it. I hate it. I'm not stupid. I just wanted to be the kind version of myself, and I let him borrow that. Did you tell him about the invite before you told me? I asked. She hesitated. That was the answer. I'm not angry. I'm Clear, I said. You're still connected to him in a way that makes my family an accessory. Ava nodded, small and quick. I met him twice. Coffee. He was spiraling. I didn't tell you because it felt harmless. She blinked hard. I can say I'm sorry until my tongue falls off. It won't rebuild the thing I kicked over. Behind us, the screen door creaked. Grandma slid out, slow as a fox pretending not to hunt. She looked at Ava, then me, then the lake. Honey, Grandma said to Ava, voice warm like tea you forgot you were holding. You can be kind without being careless. She squeezed my arm. And you can be firm without being cruel. She disappeared again like she hadn't just handed us thesis statements. I don't want to lose you, Ava said, throat tight. She cut herself off like the word tripped her. I love the house we built in each other. I loved it too, I said. But if the door stays open for Cole, it's not our house. It's a hostel. She let out a sad, broken laugh. That's painfully accurate. She set the box on the step. I made Grandma a backup cake because my anxiety needed an assignment. Can I give it to her and then go? I nodded. We went inside. Ava apologized to my mom. No theatrics, no defense. Just the clean version of the truth. Mom listened with her hands folded, shoulders soft, the way she does when she's deciding between grace and boundaries, and chooses both. Thank you for saying all that, Mom said. I accept the apology. Please don't put us in that position again. It landed like a gavel wrapped in a blanket. Ava hugged me at the door. You deserve simple, she said into my shirt. Not easy, just simple. I watched her walk to the car and knew we weren't pausing. We were ending. The difference is a quiet that doesn't echo. Nora came up behind me and hooked her chin over my shoulder. You okay? She asked. I thought about telling the truth as an instinct rather than a performance. I will be, I said. Dad yelled from the grill he wasn't using. Who wants pancakes? Grandma yelled back. At my age, every hour is breakfast. We laughed because that's how we stitched the fabric back together. After Ruthfest, the world had the audacity to keep going. Work pinged. The apartment felt a size bigger. I returned the paper lanterns and found Grandma Ores' 80 and still salty shirt in my back seat and laughed alone. Ava and I split the furniture decisions like adults and cried like kids when we reached the mugs. We agreed on almost everything except the story we'd tell ourselves about what it meant. That part always takes longer. Cole sent me a DM that began with, "As men, we should be able to talk," which is a sentence that makes me tired. He said he never intended to disrespect the sanctity of my family event. He just wanted to float a concept in a low-pressure environment. He used the word synergy unironically. I typed a dozen replies and deleted them all. I finally wrote, "Please don't contact me again," because sometimes the most respectful thing you can say is the fewest words. Nora turned the Wi-Fi at the cabin into "Cole is not family," and made my mom laugh so hard she snorted. Dad coined Liam's Law. No surprise guests, no surprise pitches, no surprise exes. Grandma made me tea and said, "Boundaries are just fences with gates. You decide who gets a key." Then she asked if I'd drive her to bingo, even though she wins too much and wants to give the others a shot. She's chaos with a cane. A few weeks later, I met someone in the most boring of ways. At a hardware store, arguing with a stranger about which sandpaper grit is the most underrated. Her name's Maya. She asked good questions and listened like she wasn't waiting for her turn to talk. When we got coffee, I told her the short version. Family party, ex-boyfriend, lake, motel. She didn't perform outrage. She just said, "Oh, so you learned the difference between being kind and being available." That sentence felt like finding the light switch in a dark room you've been living in. Ava texted me once months later to say she started therapy and was unlearning the impulse to be essential in other people's emergencies. I told her I was glad. I meant it. I don't think she and Cole are orbiting anymore, but it's not my sky to chart. The weird part about heartbreak is how it makes you a historian for a while and then, if you let it, a tourist again. We did a smaller family cookout soon after. Just us, the backyard, a cake with too many candles because Grandma wanted a fiery situation. At dusk, She made a little speech. Family, she said, is the people who ask before they add chairs. We cheered like she'd landed a stand-up special. Dad passed me a plate like a baton. Nora raised a glass and said, "To Liam's spine. May it never be rented out." Here's the moral I earned the hard way. Compassion without consent is colonization. You don't get to be generous with someone else's table. And boundaries aren't an act of war. They are maintenance, like oil changes and flossing and putting lids on the Tupperware so your leftovers don't taste like the fridge. Self-respect makes love possible because it keeps it from dissolving. If I could time travel, I wouldn't have changed the motel or the texts, or even the part where I pictured my empty chair and felt that specific kind of ache. I needed to learn that easy going wasn't my personality. It was my excuse. Now when I say yes, it means something because I protect my no. The lake taught me that. How to be still enough to hear the truth when it shows up. Grandma still beats me at Scrabble. She plays virtue across a triple word score and winks. Fences with gates, she says, tapping the board. But don't forget to enjoy the yard. We laugh. The porch swing creaks. Somewhere, a leftover lemon cake exists only in memory, and a grease stain on a paper plate. I'm good with that. Not everything needs to be saved. When I leave my parents' place that night, Mom sends me home with chili in a container labeled, "For Liam, and only Liam." Dad hands me a bag of charcoal like he's passing on an heirloom. Nora shouts from the kitchen, "Text me when you get in, boundary boy." I do. And when I crawl into bed, phone face down, I realize I've never slept better. That's not revenge, that's recovery, and it tastes like fresh air.